Good morning, Mid-Michigan, and welcome to another episode of Continuous Miracle right here on WGLM 106.3. We're glad you're here, and we're glad we're here. Got Mike Sidekick here with me this morning.
Morning, folks.
And he's brought along a guest with him this morning, and which is usually the opposite with these guys. But
Oh, yeah. Not often we get to bring a sheriff along. Usually they brought Mike along, but we got
Right,
everything.
right.
Anyway, we got Sheriff Mike Williams here from Montcalm County to help share a few insights with us this
a
morning.
role reversal going on there today. How
Happens.
about that? Things are getting better.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike. We're glad you're here, Sheriff
I'm
Mike.
glad you invited me.
Yeah, we have a little fun with this on this show, as you folks are well aware, and we hope you do too. Sheriff Mike is in with us today to share some of his insights about what's been happening in the recovery community and how it's impacting not only Montcalm, but the other counties that surround us, Ionia, Newaygo, Acosta. And there's overall sense that people are getting better, staying better, and doing good things. And that's something to be celebrated, folks. I want to thank you for all that. Speaking of thanking folks, I understand yesterday was the pancake breakfast fundraiser for
The MAC here in Greenville.
Yeah.
There was a few of us there. It turned out to be a pretty good event.
Right.
Made a few dollars for the MAC, and they tell you you're going to do it again in 6 months, so stay posted, folks.
180 days.
That's what Roger said. This morning we got Sheriff Mike with us, and he told me a little bit earlier that he started as a canine officer.
Right. I back in the 90s, Montcalm County was fortunate enough to get some resources to buy a police dog. And so one of my early assignments was as a dual-purpose police dog handler, patrol and drug dog.
Did the dog travel with you on patrol, or did you have to go fetch the dog when you encountered, some nefarious activity?
No, the dog was with me all the time.
Okay.
And in fact, I always joked over the years that I spent more time with the dog than I did with my family.
You probably did.
And I think I smelled that way too, to be honest with you.
That's part of it, isn't it?
It is. It's interesting. I have a little bit of hearing loss in my left ear because the window for 20 years of driving around was down about 1.5 inches, 2 inches to let some air in the car.
For the dog.
For the dog, and for me, really, because
Right.
Hair's flying around and that kind of thing, and that constant buzzing affected my left ear a little bit.
Yeah.
So just an interesting tidbit.
Oh, it's one of the hazards.
You never think of that hazard.
You never think of it. I didn't think of it until I thought of it.
You mentioned Hair flying around. Mia come running over to find out what you were talking about, whether she could help. That's our executive producer, folks.
Yeah, Mia's in the house.
So you went from being an officer to sheriff after quite a while. What's kind of got you?
Well, my career path is almost 30 years now. So I started.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you too as well for what you're doing here. But so the 30 years started way back in East Lansing at Michigan State, and so I studied criminal justice there. I went to the Oakland Police Academy in Auburn Hills.
Okay.
And I started my first police job at a small town between Lansing and Flint called Langsburg.
Oh, I'm familiar with Langsburg.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, spent some
Langsburg.
quality time there.
Absolutely.
I didn't visit their incarceration center, but I did.
Were you lost when you were there?
No, well, somewhat. Yeah, I was working.
Okay. So from Langsburg, I hired in 1996 into Montcalm County under then Sheriff Goodell, and worked as a deputy. And it was 1999 when we got our first police dog here. And so I was selected to be a handler, and I ran my first dog, Zill, until 2007, I think it was. 8 years, that sounds about right.
Yep.
And then I got a second dog, Rex, who I worked with until 2014. In 2014, I'd actually been promoted to sergeant prior to that, but in 2014, I was promoted to, or 2015, promoted to undersheriff. Then Sheriff Bill Barnwell had retired in 2016, and I ran for sheriff and was elected, and I've been sheriff ever since.
So
Cool.
you've seen a lot of experience here, right here in Montcalm County.
Oh, absolutely.
Both good and some that we need to see some improvement in, I imagine. Just like anything else in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's been I've seen an evolution over the years.
Sure.
The county is vastly different than what it was 30 years ago.
Well, that's what Mike was mentioning back, in the 1890s when he was bumping around. He had the Gibson plant here, and it had
Yep.
a real high employment ratio of folks,
Yeah.
and that went away, and then there was a socioeconomic impact of that, and then now we're seeing a resurgence in the Greenville area,
A
haven't we?
little bit, yeah.
With
I think so.
manufacturing and the
think
jobs
so.
available, and people coming back and living and raising families, and
It's a
making
great
life
place
here.
to live and work, and I love the area.
Yeah, you have to. If you're the sheriff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know public safety is your paramount concern, but back to the substance use disorder part. Had you seen a change in the drug, what was the word
Culture?
for it, prevalence?
Yeah, the whole, it's really an evolution that I've seen. And when I came into the business, especially here in Montcalm County, the drug that we would see the most was marijuana. And so when I would stop cars or make arrests.
Oh, that's legal now.
Well, at the state level, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But so that was the most prevalent thing that we would see. It was very rare that you would see anything like heroin or meth or
Hard drugs, so to
cocaine.
speak.
You didn't really see a whole lot of it. Every now and then you may, but you didn't see a whole lot of it. And then in the early 2000s, so I became a canine handler in '99, and then into the 2000s, I saw a lot of this and working with the drug team. You started seeing a lot of prescription pill bottles. And I know people have probably heard this story before. It's a nationwide story, really. Where
Well, it's wasn't it the beginning of the opioid epidemic?
That's
That was how
exactly
it
it.
started, was prescription drugs.
Yep, that's exactly where I'm going with this. We
Right.
saw it here, and in law enforcement, we didn't really recognize it at the time. I'd search a car, I'd find
Well,
some.
how would you?
Yeah, exactly.
It comes from a doctor, you're okay,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what we thought. So I'd search a car. I'd maybe find some marijuana or make an arrest on a marijuana charge. And when you search the car, you'd find prescription bottles for that person. Well, it has their name on it, and you wouldn't think twice of it. You'd just basically throw it back in the glove box or the center console, and that was the end of that.
Sure.
And it took a few years, I think, for law enforcement to really realize what was going on. You had some bad actors in the medical field that were very liberal with their prescription pad, and sometimes selling prescriptions for opioids, and that caused a real problem. And that was really, I think, the beginning of the opioid crisis that we have all over the country. And in Montcalm County, the Greenville area, was a microcosm of that.
Sure.
It was no different. It was the textbook, story that you hear. I
And you hear them throughout the country. I
Yeah.
travel a
Absolutely.
good bit, and it's a reoccurring story.
Absolutely.
I hear.
And it was happening everywhere. And as I look back on my career, it happened here too, right before my eyes. And then there were a lot of changes in the law that eventually kind of clamped down on a lot of that. Law enforcement was able to react to some of the medical people that weren't quite scrupulous, and cleaned a lot of that up. And then that left a hole,
Sure.
and that hole got filled.
So I met a fella, I know him in the program, that said around 2015 or something like that, he had a doctor that if he paid the right amount of money, he could get most anything
Oh, yeah.
he wanted. And he said it dried up right around and then, and he switched his
Yeah.
drug of choice.
Yeah, it took a long time, but yeah,
Well,
that
it's the
eventually
effect
happened.
of law enforcement. I mean, he mentioned laws were written, changed, and then there was some enforcement involved with that.
We were playing catch up.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you had millions of people around the country getting addicted
And dying.
and dying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started to clean some of that up, but that hole was left behind had to be filled with something.
Like a vacuum.
It was, and there were some things overseas in Afghanistan and whatnot that were a lot of poppy and
Yeah, I wonder why we never won that war.
Yeah.
I wonder what was going on with that.
But a lot of there was a source for heroin that
Right.
was really coming in, and that turned out between that and meth turned out to kind of be the replacement. And then over the years, it kind of has went back and forth, really, I think, based on availability. And then the last few years, fentanyl has come into the system as well and really caused problems, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I don't have any personal experience with some of those substances, but I have seen the effects on other folks.
Absolutely.
And it is devastating.
Well, and it's not just the effect on
And
the
just
person
the people,
using,
yeah,
it's
right,
the
the
people
entire
around them.
unit, family
Sure.
unit, yeah,
Sure.
employers, yeah. Yeah, it can be devastating.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike, go ahead.
No, I wasn't ready to interrupt yet, but I could.
Go ahead.
Well, the change from one drug to another, one filling in the space of that. The fella I was talking about, he said he switched to heroin right in that time because law enforcement was doing a much better job. But when you're saying playing catch up and it's at fentanyl, so you probably cleaned up the legal methods of getting the drug, or is that not quite the case?
The legal methods of like fentanyl
Of
or the prescription.
the prescription drugs, that's what I was sort of
I-
referring to.
I think no, it's not 100%, but we're doing a better job at those. I guess I would put in quotations legitimate routes of getting substances,
Okay.
for lack of a better phrase.
That explains it.
Yeah, I think law enforcement is doing better with respect to that. But is it 100%? No, I think it's still happening.
Yeah, I know historically it was a long time before doctors stopped prescribing morphine.
Yep.
There was, back then I was in the 50s, I believe, is when that kind of crackdown occurred.
Yeah.
But it was a long time before it was completely addressed, as near as I can tell.
And I would say there's better training for doctors nowadays too, and I can't speak as an authority to that, but I think they're more aware of drug seekers and those types of things. I mean, when I was a young deputy, I recall occasionally dealing with like a drug seeker type case where they would go to an emergency room and feign some type of illness, in order to get Demerol or
Sure.
something like that. But there's better training, I think, for medical personnel, and I think everybody's doing a better job addressing that and preventing it.
Well, that's what we're doing here today.
Absolutely.
Awareness is the key to change, and when people become aware, and you at the opioid crisis, when you take the financial piece out of it, and you're not pushing pills out on the street for profit, that helps diminish. I mean, when you start choking that off.
Yeah, and I think you had there were I think a lot of people in the medical field that were really trying to help people and maybe didn't know, but now that we have some better training and better data, they're more aware of the impact on these things.
Yeah, there were some you mentioned though were just unscrupulous.
And there were some that were very
Absolutely.
unscrupulous.
Yeah, and that cost people's lives.
Absolutely.
I'm under the impression that doctors are somewhat fearful people about trying something that hasn't got a lot of data behind it, so they follow protocol.
I think so.
And the protocol from the opioid manufacturing companies said that it was okay back then until somebody found out different.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. And maybe listening to the manufacturers or the people.
Maybe
that
not a
were,
good idea.
Not so much. And in fact, we had mentioned earlier.
Call them salesmen for a reason.
Yep. One of the things, legalized drug dealers, is that what we call it?
It's kind of we're heading in that direction.
Yeah. But
Let's get back to that though here in a minute. 'Cause Dangerous Darren, and he is telling me we got a break coming up here. So come on back and join us after the break with Sheriff Mike and my sidekick Mike W. He's loading up on some questions for
I am.
Sheriff. We'll talk to you real quick here. Come on back.
We don't have to plug anything this week, do we?
I think, no, all fundraisers and stuff are out. I thanked everybody but Pancake Deal. So I think we got that out.
Symposium.
You know, in talking about my addiction, I got an invitation to the, I think it was the Alano golf outing.
All right.
Yeah, we got that. Man, we'll be there.
Yeah, I will too. I want to win it this year.
Okay, we'll let you.
Roger will probably have something to say about
Well, Roger asked me if I golf with him this year. I said, maybe the sheriff.
Need a crash, Mike?
Up-to-date
Yeah.
information on WGLN.
Thank you. It was a tick.
Oh,
Dead now. I
I
found a tick on
Yeah,
it.
Alano, August 10th, right?
For 10 clubs,
sounds about
well,
right,
it's
yeah.
the end of the season. For 13 others, it's one last game
That's a
before
nice
the
fundraiser for
postseason.
That is.
And for 7 teams in the Western Conference, Game 82,
Do that,
well,
a
it
couple
might
of
feel
pancake
like Game
breakfasts each
7.
year, and
Now, the
imagine get along
NBA
okay
regular
on that.
season
I'm not
does
sure
end
where it was.
today.
If it was the
With 7
Alano outing or if it was
postseason West teams entering the final
Greenville
day,
Lions.
wondering
Rogers
just
involved with
where
the
they
Lions
will
as well.
land
Yeah.
in
And
the
he
standings.
he plays
And it
golf
could be
with my
decided
wife's
around the
cousin
same
John.
time. Every
And,
game today in
John,
the NBA will start at
we're in the group
approximately
behind
the
him,
same
and there was still
time,
dew
roughly
in the
3:30
grass,
Eastern
and we're
time.
behind him, so we're coming up on this
And
next hole.
today,
And he
of
wrote,
course, marks
wrote
the
in, you know,
final
losing back and
round
forth
of
going
the
on. He wrote
Masters
do,
at
he
Augusta,
wrote
Georgia.
losers,
Several
you know,
still
but he spelled it as
This is
loser.
SRN.
So we gave him a bunch
30
of grief
seconds.
for
And
that.
he's a teacher.
Cloudy skies and a slight chance of some
I remember a
showers
fellow
throughout
wanted
the
to
day
make
today,
his
high
own
of
jean
57.
jacket back in
Clouds
the
and
day.
showers
He
again
wanted to
overnight
put
tonight,
Born
a
to
low of
Lose on the back, but he
45.
wrote Born
Showers to
Loose
start
on
the day
it.
become
Not as well educated as he wanted to be.
It's like the tattoos regrets.
No regrets.
Yeah, no regrets. So there's a tattoo removal place up in Big Rapids called No Regrets. And it's spelled regrets.
Come on back.
We're college educated.
Hey, Scott here with Continuous Miracle. Glad you're back. We're having a little fun like we do in between the breaks here. And talking about golf and things of that nature we're probably not very good at.
Tattoos.
Tattoos, yeah. All the important things.
Yeah, we invited Sheriff Williams to the golf outing for the MAC this summer, and he's already got it in his calendar.
Yeah. Well,
We did that, Roger.
Yeah. Sheriffs are good at that. They put things down. They're not like
My
us.
whole life revolves around what's in my phone. In fact,
Right.
if it's not in there, I generally forget about it or don't
Right.
show up. So
It's funny you mention that. When we first started the show, I put a challenge out to anyone who didn't think they were addicted to something. And my challenge was, I challenge you to put your phone down for 24 hours and not touch it. And tell me if you don't feel a little irritable, restless, or discontent at the end of that 24 hours and can't get your hands on that phone fast enough.
yep.
I went 24 minutes and really got upset.
Well, you know it's Masters weekend, so all those patrons at Augusta
Oh, yeah.
can't take their phones in.
Oh,
Ooh,
my goodness.
that's got to be ugly.
So I don't know if you have a bunch of detox going on.
Well, no wonder all those beers are getting thrown on the greens and
There
stuff
you
on
go.
TV.
There
Yeah.
you go.
People getting unmanageable.
Wow.
That explains a lot. Thank
There
you.
you go. Yeah. Well, we educate and inform.
That's what we're trying to do here today.
There you
I don't
go.
know if we're succeeding or not, but we're trying, and that's all that's asked.
Oh, we're succeeding. It's just maybe not the direction we were headed, but
Those things are going to happen.
Well, is the education worth? You know, do you get out of it what you should? I'm not sure. You know,
Yet to be determined.
is it valid and useful?
well, yeah, getting folks to the golf outing would be valid and
It
useful.
would be.
So we're on that.
It would be.
Winning.
There you go.
So as you've watched, I don't know, more serious now, but as you've watched the evolution of the substance abuses or substances that you described, and as we're coming along here a little bit, and we mentioned and we spoke about how recovery or resource rich our communities are today as a result of some of the settlements and things of that nature, you know, people trying to make amends for the damage it caused with the opioid crisis and that is turning into something, or has turned into something that's really, really been useful and helpful to the people throughout our communities, and not just Montcalm, but as you well know, the counties that surround us. We're pretty fortunate people.
Yep. It has provided a lot of resources, and I'm happy to say that there's programming that we're doing at the jail, and partnering with the Montcalm Care Network that are providing some of those things to the citizens in the area.
Right. I'd like to touch on that. I know Mike wanted to touch on your recidivism and how you approach that within the confines. What you can share. I mean, of course, within the jail.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that, where years ago, when there was more of a stigma around addiction and recovery, there was really not a whole lot that. People were motivated to try to help this problem,
Right.
And I think
more of a lock them up attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that mentality has changed, including with me. I had mentioned this earlier. When I was a young deputy, I'd want to, you go to a call, you stop a car, whatever, you find a crime, you make an arrest, you take them to jail, and that's that. And you think, wow, job well done.
Right.
And you forget about some of the underlying causes. So drug abuse and addiction as an underlying cause, and by not addressing that, when that person is released or is out in the community, they're going to reoffend, and there's going to be another victim. And so if you're truly into the game for public safety, and you truly care about a safe community,
And help changing lives in
Yeah.
the process.
how can you ignore that?
Right.
And so I think you've had people, from one end of the political spectrum to the other, that have came to realize that it's not just about locking people up. It's about getting them help and helping them to a level where they won't reoffend and create more victims. And so, you can be the most hard-nosed law enforcement person in the world, and if you're not worried about future victims, you're doing it wrong.
And a short sell.
Yeah, it's very, very short-sighted.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the what I think the mentality has moved towards in the last few years, and I think that's for the better.
Right, I agree. It's better for all concerned, especially if you're going to those underlying factors, what's causing this, and then because we do have resources,
Yep.
how can we best help this person as
Absolutely.
opposed to the lock 'em up theory,
Right.
which the time and a place for that too.
And there is, and I would say, just because somebody goes into a program doesn't mean they're going to be cured.
No.
But you can't stop trying. So
Right.
you have to keep trying over and over. And the data shows, I believe, and I didn't bring any of it with me, but the data I'm told shows that the more you try, the more successful you'll be.
Makes sense.
And so you can't stop trying. So
Right.
so these resources and these programs are important in that aspect, because maybe one program doesn't work, but another one will.
Right. Yeah, and there's multiple pathways for people to become well.
Absolutely.
And that whole attitude about, the lock 'em up attitude, what has helped me was I learned something long ago when somebody mentioned to me, well, they're not bad people trying to get good. They're sick people, they have a disease, trying to get well.
Absolutely.
And that turned a key for me. And
And
it really did. It opened that portal in my mind, the one that was there at that time. Made me understand, maybe helped me discover some empathy. Yeah, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
Whereas it didn't prior to that.
And most of the jail population that we have are going to be released back into the community. These
Sure.
people are your neighbors, they're
Yep.
your friends, they're your
Co-workers.
relatives, co-workers. And so, why wouldn't you want to help them somehow?
Yeah. That's something about caring for your neighbor in there somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I think so.
That just clicked. Kind of looking out for it.
Weird how some parallels.
Yeah,
start to
every
form.
once in a while they pop up.
Yeah.
Even I can't miss them.
Well, it was something I couldn't miss. When Judge Krieger was on here, she pointed out that first time she says somebody, there's never anything about alternative sentence. It's because it's usually a shorter term, and they'll be, like you said, released into the community when the time their sentence is over. And she kind of recommends they do something about treatment, but the recidivism she addresses, she said, was after a repeat offender.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want anybody to get the idea that the policy now for the criminal justice system is that everybody's an addict. No, that's not the case.
No.
No, there's a large percentage that come into the jail with addiction in that, but not everybody, and it's not something that they can't get help for.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want anybody to get the idea that I've crossed paths with. Well, that's the wrong way to put it. They talk about alternative sentence treatment as alternative sentence, but not in any of the initial appearances before the judge.
Right.
But when it becomes to a point where there's recidivism, then it's addressed, is what I understand.
Right. Well, people can make mistakes, and maybe that might be the reason for their
Yeah.
first trip through the criminal justice system. But if you start seeing them over and over,
Frequent flyer.
right? Even the dumbest member of the criminal justice system ought to start thinking, I wonder why this is happening.
Right.
So,
Let's poke around here a little bit.
yeah.
Start connecting some dots.
Why are you back here again? So we have, and I guess I did kind of want to touch on some of the things that we do in the jail.
Yeah, which
That's
place?
okay. So we have several programs. The one I'll start out with is the Reach the Forgotten Ministries. So Pastor Dwayne comes in. It used to be Forgotten Man Ministries.
Yes.
And they do some specific programming in a Christian setting, and it's voluntary for the inmates that want to take part in that address addiction.
Try and enhance the spiritual condition a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. We
Or
also
open somebody to it.
Yep. We also have a community corrections program, and there's some different avenues or different programming there, and a lot of that's based on the data on what our community corrections manager offers. But we do cognitive thinking classes because behavioral is some of the issue at times.
You mean my being there was part? My behavior was part of it.
Maybe.
You got to rethink this.
They do some pretrial adjudication, pretrial monitoring and drug testing as well, and they also do an intensive outpatient program to help treat drug addiction as well.
So there's an IOP program
Yes.
available coming out to folks who had been incarcerated.
So these are the people that are in jail
Yep.
currently. So
Okay.
that's not something that reaches to the outside.
Okay, so that's internal.
Right.
Oh,
But
nice.
that does bring me to another program that we have. And I don't want to get too far into acronyms. We do that in law enforcement a lot. Our RSAT program, our Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program. So a few years back, actually I think it was pre-COVID, we had really seen an uptick in overdose deaths in the county.
Yeah, I remember that time. That was
Yep.
really.
And we had a woman that had been released from jail on a Friday, and we had got word that following Monday, and she had been in jail about 6 months, that she had went down to the Grand Rapids area and overdosed on heroin that weekend and died on that Sunday. And I thought, gosh, there is just no support or program.
Follow-up.
Yeah,
Follow-up.
we end up releasing people from jail. They're clean, and they get released, and they get released back into that same environment,
Right.
and then kind of trip up and have issues, and that's what happened with this young woman. I was able to come across some funding, a funding source. It was a federal burn grant that offered this residential substance abuse treatment in jails. And there were only 2 other jails in the state that were doing it at the time. I'm not sure if that's still the case or not. But I partnered with MCN, the Montcalm Care Network, sorry, more acronyms. And they really picked up the ball on this. And we have 2 MCN workers that are in our building that help administer this program. They do activities and programs to address substance use disorder inside the jail, as well as they build a bridge, and so they offer through this program some support and counseling and treatment on the outside after they're released.
That's fantastic.
And it really helps bridge that, because if people have a problem and they come to jail because of that, and then they get cleaned up or they're thinking straight again,
Sure.
and they get released back into that same environment. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You know,
Rinse and repeat.
right. And so this program, I think, really helps with that, and I think is a good thing to help people when they get on the outside.
Kind of break that cycle.
Absolutely.
And send folks in a different direction.
Absolutely.
With some help.
With some
not
help.
Send them somewhere,
Yep.
but with some help.
Yep. Well, support. They need
Support
support.
along the way.
You know, and some may have family support, some may not. But
Sure.
you know, both of those situations, people need that support.
Yeah.
So,
You come to find that we discovered that a recovery community that's available not only locally but wherever you may be situated. But it's about connectivity.
Yes, sir.
Mike likes to mention.
yep.
Addiction is isolation, and recovery is connectivity.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, Sheriff, for going easy on me with the acronyms, because I have so much clutter in my head as it is, I can't take any more.
You know, in any sheriff that you ever meet, you know, we like to talk, and sometimes our brains go a little bit faster, and we start rattling these things off, and
You look at it like we don't know what you're talking about.
without even realizing. Yeah.
That's all right. We're catching up.
And then another program that we've just started is a MAT program. And so another acronym there.
MAP, MAP.
MAT, M-A-T,
Oh, MAT,
medically
okay.
assisted treatment.
Yes.
And so this is the.
We know a little about that.
Right.
She's a doctor. What was her?
Oh, from Lakeview.
Yeah.
Dr. Kate.
Dr. Kate.
Oh,
Brenwell.
Yep. Oh,
See?
she's very knowledgeable.
Yeah. She's
Boy,
wonderful.
I tell
But
you,
she
yeah.
explained that a little bit to me. You go ahead and tell
Yeah,
us.
so-
Because that's the amazing thing about the recovery community. There's a different piece to the puzzle.
Yep.
Like you're the law enforcement piece, and she's the doctor piece, and now that comes together to help all of us.
Yep. And she's vastly more knowledgeable on all these topics than I am. But
She had more acronyms now that I think about it too.
maybe that's how you judge.
I guess
the more
I'm-
acronyms that you
I'm
have, the
getting
more.
onto the thing.
Well, I don't know hardly any, so where's that putting me?
You know, son.
Oh,
Well, with medically assisted treatment, we just started this in January, and I'll tell you from a law enforcement perspective or a facility perspective
Sure.
in the jail, anytime you're bringing Suboxone or a narcotic into the jail for this treatment, we get really uneasy because we don't
yeah.
want to see any diversion or
Oh, I can imagine, yeah.
or abuse like that. So for me, it's a very I feel like I'm losing my hair about this a little bit.
You're
but
doing good.
So far, so far it's been very successful. So far,
Good.
we've had we started with 3 participants in January. 13 in February. And I
Oh.
don't have the March numbers yet, but they're also, if they're going to be part of that MAP program, required to do some other programming as well. So to
Okay.
be part of the RSAT is the natural thing to take part of. But
So
but
what
it's-
have you seen as because you said you were hesitant,
Yeah.
which I understand,
Yeah.
understandably, but as you've seen these couple of months tick by, have you seen
Well,
have you noticed anything?
It's
or-
what I haven't seen so far, which is any type of
Encouraging.
bad incident within the jail. So that's the biggest fear for me is some type of diversion of that. The procedures that we have in place are a very strict regimented procedure to dispense.
Well, it needs to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to dispense and whatnot, and so that's very controlled, and so we've been able to kind of alleviate some of my fears anyway. But it's early in the program, and we're going to see where that goes. I think it's going to be helpful for people.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good day if we can lessen the sheriff's concern level, don't you?
Yes.
Isn't that a win?
yeah. I don't
I
know.
think so. Yeah,
I would think so.
I don't know how
too.
much I had to do with that, but it sounds like the program's got something to do with that.
Dr. Kate, maybe.
Yeah. About this medically assisted treatment, from what I understand, there's only some addictions that there's any kind of medical treatment for. And what they have a lot to do with is dealing with the brain chemistry at the time. But what I've seen with almost every one of them, after that initial use of the medically assisted treatment, there has to be some really heavy counseling
Right.
Is that what those other initials were you told me
The,
about?
the RSAT program, the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program, and in conjunction with Montcalm Care Network, those are the people that are administering that. And to be a part of the medically assisted treatment program, the MATRO program, you have to take that other programming as well.
Okay.
So there's some requirements. along
Yes.
the way.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit more further about this when we return. Darren's telling us we got to take a break, and since Darren's dangerous, I'm going to do what he says. Come on back and join us after the break. We're glad you're here.
So this is the point where you get to, what did we miss? What did you like to?
Well, I
get
don't
on?
know.
Yeah.
I was able to plug my programs. We're at the Hope section, right?
Yes, sir.
I hope it all goes well.
Where are we going from here, right?
You know, the mat thing, and it is for us, for sheriffs, it's just a.
Hey,
You
this
know,
is
we
Linda
would
Turner
worry
from
about,
Belding,
well,
another
if
easy
something
winner.
gets diverted.
I'm
So
loving
sometimes
the
it may be
variety,
cheap
the tunes, the
medication or
music,
that
the
type of
mix,
thing, and then, you know, and if it gets
WGLM.
abused, and then all
Do
of a
you want
sudden
to
we
go to college,
overdose
but
and
you're
in the
unsure how
jail,
to pay
and
for it? This is Shannon Tripp,
those are the
director of
things
the Early
that-
College Program, in
that
collaboration
keep me
with
up at
Montcalm
night
Community
worrying.
College.
And
The Early College Program allows
but it's
juniors to
been
graduate
okay
with a high
so
school
far,
diploma
yeah,
and an
yeah.
associate's
And
degree
you know,
from
I'll be
FCC
honest,
after
I
3 years
didn't
in the
really want to
program.
do it.
The Early College Program
you know,
pays
we
for
saw
the
the
students'
writing on the
tuition,
wall.
books, and fees.
There were a few
For more
court
information
cases
at
that said, you know, this is really the direction that you have to go in.
or call me at
And, you know,
616-225-5706.
I was resistant to it, but I'm like, well,
Brad's Cleaners can handle anything.
there's a
Mother
lot of
Nature
support
dishes
for it out
out.
there, and,
Right.
and
Right.
I don't know
listening
everything.
area for over 30
No,
years.
you're like
Brad's
me.
Cleaners
I know
is
enough.
your
So, you know,
Enough to get by.
yeah. So as long as we you know, can
Certified in
maintain
cleaning and
controls and
restoration. Brad's
you
uses
know,
state-of-the-art
alleviate some of the
drying
worries that I
equipment,
had, then
disinfects and
I guess probably
deodorizes,
wouldn't.
leaving you with complete
Yeah, Kate
restoration
Bernwald,
done
she's
right.
smart lady.
Brad's Cleaners
Yes, she
sends
is.
you
She is.
uniformed,
She's very
insured,
smart.
and bonded professionals.
And she
to
comes
the
from the heart.
rescue.
Yeah.
Fire,
Oh yeah.
smoke,
Very
water
much so.
storm, or
Very
mold
much so.
damage taken
And that's
care
that
of
whole, and I
all
guess
Flash.
I didn't talk about it. The MAT is being funded through that opioid committee, so that
Brad's
opioid money
Cleaners.
that the county
One
got.
call does it all.
And you know, if you guys, as you're going to different groups or whatnot, had ideas for some of that, you know, if you needed resources for certain things, I would, you know, approach the opioid committee for somebody on there and bring it up, and if you have a proposal, you know, that you thought would help people.
Yeah, we got ideas, but you know, sometimes it comes down to funding, as you know, you're a sheriff, you know that as well as I do.
And
All costs money at the end of the day.
it does. But you know what? Different things, because one program isn't going to solve one thing that's going to solve it. Everybody's different. Exactly. And yeah, the MAT, and that's why I think they have you know, a requirement for some other type of treatment. Because the MAT itself isn't going to solve it.
No,
You need the
I'm
behavior
30
side of
seconds.
it.
Join me
We
for
were
Best in
listening to a
Blues on
speaker
Blues Day
last
Locks
week
here on
that was talking about the
WGLM.
chemistry
We've got the best in
going on
rock
with
oriented
that.
and traditional
And
blues
he was
music
able to
Saturday and
point
Sunday
out that
nights
the
at
prayer and
9 on AM
meditation
106.3.
after the
You'll hear
initial
the latest
whatever
in music
is
releases
as
and plenty
effective
of
at
classic
changing
tracks
brain
from blues
chemistry
veterans
as most
spanning the
anything
Allman
else.
Brothers to
Yeah.
ZZ Top.
It's freaking
Our
amazing.
Blood segment spotlights unsigned
But-
bands and
so it
individual
has to be
music
the support.
releases.
I will.
And if you've got a
Afterwards.
band, we'd love to
Is
consider
it on?
your music
Is it
too.
streamed on
That's
Yeah.
Blues
different
Deluxe,
Facebook
Saturdays
pages?
and
Go to
Sundays at 9
Continuous
p.m. on
Miracle.
AM
Okay,
106.3.
Continuous Miracle?
It'll
I'll forget it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I'll forget it.
Like me.
Hey, Scott and Mike back here with you on Continuous Miracle, and we're glad you're here right on 106.3 WGLM. Guess we're on Backroads Radio as well today, 101.9 and
1380.
1380 AM. So we're getting out there trying to carry this message out into the community. And I want to thank proprietors here at GLM for giving us this opportunity. There's many people to thank along the way, and we try and catch up when we can. So, Sheriff's being one of them. He's gone and above and beyond his what would you call public service, you know, and
Yeah.
helping the folks of the community, trying to get well, be well. And there's so much good things, so many good things going into the coming to the recovery community and already there, that we just need to pick up some of these resources and put them into effect in our own lives. See what happens next, you know. What an adventure.
Tis.
Can be.
Life is an adventure.
Yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. What's next?
Exactly. Exactly.
What was that?
Well, I really had a question for the sheriff
Well, go
about
ahead.
what's next. Is you told us about some of the programs that you're currently using, and it, to some good effect. Do you have anything possible in the future else that might come up, or?
No, recently the MAP program, the medically assisted treatment program, has been kind of the newest, and we're really looking at that and where that's taken us, and so we've been focused there and not so much on anything brand new lately.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, well, and also you have availability in jails, right? Do you have meetings brought in from folks
Yeah,
outside?
in some of this programming, they bring in
Okay.
people from the outside. Oh gosh, now I got to think of the word that I'm or the title.
You don't got an acronym ready?
I don't.
I feel so
Sheriff
much
dropped the
better.
ball.
Oh,
But I know that what really needs is that one-on-one
Yep.
with another that's.
recovery coaches is what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, oh yeah, those folks.
So we do have recovery coaches that are part of these programs as
And
well.
they come in and help
Yep.
facilitate some
Yep.
of the, some of the map.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and the RSAT. The
And
RSAT
they are,
stuff.
so
Yep.
they help facilitate that. And those are public servants as well.
It's all volunteer.
Yes, sir.
So those folks are doing a great job, and it's not just in our jail, but all around. And,
Right, right.
And,
Surrounding
we really
communities.
appreciate what they contribute.
There's a lot of people pulling for folks in the recovery community and actually taking action and applying
Yep.
the knowledge that they have to try and help people get better. We're living in a really
I was
golden
up.
age of recovery, if you can term it that. I mean, with the resources that are available to us, it's amazing. To
I
me.
think somebody that's in recovery today has much better chances than someone, say, even 10 or 15 years ago.
I agree
There's a lot of
wholeheartedly.
resources there. I know we talked earlier about Narcan.
Yes.
Narcan, the availability of Narcan. We have that in a vending machine in our jail for free in the lobby.
Just walk in and punch a button and you get a bottle
Right,
of Narcan,
right.
right?
And that can be a component as well, although early on in somebody's recovery process. But
That can save a life.
absolutely, and if they can't breathe and they're not breathing, then they're not going to be
Not a good day.
Not going to be recovering
Right,
anytime soon.
right.
So we want to keep people alive, and those lives are important.
Right, and that Narcan's available, well, at your office and also in the libraries, I
I
understand.
think so at Montcalm Care Network.
The hospital.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm not.
I was at
sure.
the walk-in clinic the other day in Greenville, and they had a tear
Okay,
in it.
There
I
we go.
just-
That's what's, yeah.
It
you
used to be
told-
like a newspaper vending machine that had them in it.
Okay.
Didn't have to put any money in this time.
So availability for Narcan and
Right.
naproxen, I guess.
Yep.
Or what you give me the term.
I am not good with the
Okay,
with
well, let's
strict
go with
medicine
Narcan.
names. That's
Yeah.
why I use the word Suboxone or
Suboxone, right.
or Narcan. Those are, I think, the trade names.
And those are free, available to anybody in the community. All you have to do is go acquire it, and you
Yep.
have it. Maybe have an opportunity, if need be, to save a life.
Absolutely,
It doesn't cost a dime.
absolutely.
I call that resources.
Those are opioid blockers. Then
Right.
they only address opioids.
Yes.
All the other drugs we talked about, they don't have a instant save your life for. But whatever all those things are, I was told this morning by Scott that he heard that the overdose death rate had dropped significantly between 23 and 24.
Yeah, it's diminishing a
Yep.
great deal.
Yep. I think.
Sorry
I think.
for-
I think that's a result of all the resources that have came to bear, whether it be the lawsuit settlement against the opioid manufacturers or whatnot. But it did bring resources to communities. Also, the work like what you two are doing here, bringing awareness and reducing the stigma helps as well. People, I think, aren't as afraid to reach out for help. Sometimes, getting them to ask for help is a struggle.
It was tough for me.
Yeah, but if you have a relative that's struggling with addiction, you know, you can be there for them, and you can help them yourself and help encourage them to get that help, because the help's out there. It's not like, I mean, just like I said, it's not like 20 years ago where there really wasn't anything.
Right.
Yeah. I looked into the numbers, and it said there was something like close to 190,000 people died last year from alcoholism, and somewhere about 87 to 90,000 people died of addiction. In both cases, the numbers are down somewhat. So all these things together are somewhat helping.
We're putting a dent in things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's we're going in the right direction.
Right.
Definitely. And you know, no one program that I have in the jail or one program anywhere is going to cure everything. But the whole point is to keep on trying, keep on innovating with new programs if we can, to address what's needed.
Yeah, there's not a
When you
silver
say-
bullet out there.
No.
Yeah. When you say keep on trying, it reminds me about 5 years ago, I'm telling this fellow woke up with a needle in his arm that I was working with, and I took him to treatment. And on the way to medically assisted treatment, and along the way I'm on the phone to his mother, and she's saying something about he ain't worth it. And I said, I had to, because she'd been disgusted over time with his behavior. And I said, everybody deserves redemption and rehabilitation. Anyway, he's been
Absolutely.
4 years clean now because I didn't give up.
Good for him. Good for
Yeah.
him. And yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, got
And
one right.
And even if even if somebody doesn't have an addiction problem themselves, if they know somebody that does, you know, you can be there for that person.
Sure. And,
Yeah.
and you can understand as opposed to being, you know, or not understanding. Well, and there's only so much we can each do.
Yeah,
but-
and it can be frustrating for people. I
Oh,
understand
absolutely,
that.
yeah.
You know, but the point is, if we don't give up, then we can tackle this problem.
We got a chance.
Yep.
Yeah. That my motivation was when I first went to work as a recovery coach. I worked in a sober living facility. Now the first 50 men I worked with 60 years ago, half of them are dead today from addiction or alcoholism. It's pretty deadly disease. It keeps me trying.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and it's real life stuff, and
Yep.
it happens right here in our communities.
Absolutely.
And surrounding communities, and all across this country.
Yep. And it's good, and it's hopeful that, you know, in looking at the data, we're starting to make a dent.
Right.
Yeah.
Things are getting better.
Yeah. So we got to all cooperate, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
At some level, yeah, we all need to be getting oar in the water and get moving.
I like that. Get the oar in the water.
That's right. Not going nowhere. Why do you put the oar in the water?
Then for the longest time, my part of the paddle was just on one side. We kept going in circles. I learned to help in a couple places. Kind of helped.
Yeah, we asked him, what are you doing over there?
That might be the most profound thing that I've heard all weekend. Get your oar in the water.
Well, that's right. Well, it's not. Weekend's not over with yet.
Well, he used to tell me things like, we need a little help here. He kind of voluntold me to do something. That's a big word in my world, being voluntold.
I bet he does that pretty often.
Oh, yeah.
On the receiving end or the giving end?
Probably both, you know. Can't do unless you learn.
There you go. There you go.
And that's kind of like recovery. We can't really do until we learn something different.
That's right.
You know, and
That's right.
then it becomes what can we do? Where can I put my oar in the water and try and give a hand there?
Absolutely.
When we're doing that, you know, something starts happening.
I think so too.
Things start moving.
Yep.
I found that the part that I do is the one-on-one talking with another alcoholic or an addict, because I better understand being stuck in the problem instead of trying to work towards a solution. All these programs that you spoke of, they're to try to help, but in the long run, the person really needs to connect to an NA or AA program or something
Absolutely.
similar, because that's where the rubber hits the road.
That's the ongoing support.
Yes, sir.
Or ongoing treatment.
Yeah. And you know, I think we found that, you know, addiction isn't something that you just solve and you're cured.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that way.
It doesn't happen like that. And so it's a lifelong process.
Yeah, I still got thinking issues. I still think I know something once in a while. We got to calm that down.
We let them. Go ahead and do that.
And then report back.
Well, report back.
There you go.
Tell us whether that works or not.
Try not to hurt yourself or anybody else.
The part that I found that I can do is I can bake a cake and take it to a meeting and let people enjoy themselves and have a little conviviality and fellowship while they're having a dessert.
And you know that actually supports the problem, supports the solution.
Yeah.
You know, small things like that can be life changing for people, and you're helping to provide that environment and yeah, bake a
It's
cake.
a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get to see a person every once in a while do something kind, like give me a dozen eggs so I can continue my work.
Yeah, carry on.
There you go.
Love that shit. Was I just soliciting eggs or something?
Again?
Again? Don't arrest me for
You
soliciting.
got
Jared.
pretty crafty.
Well, as expensive as eggs are,
Well, yeah,
I mean, what else can you do?
Alms for the poor. But we're doing what we can. But mostly what I do is I talk to other alcoholics and let them know that there is a solution. And I mentioned it earlier, but not on, I don't think it was on the air. I listened to a gentleman that was talking last week, Gary Kay, and he pointed out that prayer and meditation alters brain chemistry in a positive way. So I'm over here helping people to try to understand that they can use prayer and meditation in conjunction with any of these other things to help themselves get better.
There's a lot of approaches that can work for people.
Yeah.
Found that to be true. Multiple pathways to
Yeah,
recovery.
absolutely.
There's no cut and dried. cookie
Cake and
cutter.
prayer from where I'm coming from.
Cake and prayer from Mike.
What kind of cake? That's a
Well, this morning
no.
I brought Scott an orange poke cake.
okay. An orange
Where-
poke cake.
Yeah, I put mandarin oranges under it, slices, and then I baked the cake, and then I poked holes in it and put the orange jello.
Sheriff, he just kind of makes stuff up as he goes along. We just keep eating it.
There you go.
Somebody asked if I just look in the cupboard and see what I got left over, make a cake out of that or not. Well, sometimes.
There you go. That's great.
It's working.
That's great.
I can't do profound things like run to jail or something like that, but I can bake a cake once in a while.
Nailing it.
I'll tell you, they say good cops are never cold, wet, or hungry.
Ah,
So
imagine.
maybe
Hungry,
you got
angry.
something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little tired. Yeah.
Never cold, wet, or hunger. I just love that. That's like our halt thing.
Right.
Never let ourselves get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. That'll kind of affect us in a negative way.
Well, and mishaps get lessened if you don't get that way.
That part.
There you go.
Is there anything you'd like to leave the folks with
Yeah,
towards
that's
the end
what you
of
want
the
us
show?
to
No, I think what you two are doing here is great. This is, of course, a piece of the puzzle that I think will help people and help reduce the stigma and educate them as to what's available out there. And because we know that there's probably people out there or people's relatives out there right now listening and looking for an answer. And while we may not have the answers specifically, we have a pathway to try to help you find those answers.
Right. Yeah. Things are a lot more available than what they were.
Absolutely, and
previously.
it is. What you said earlier kind of struck me, the golden age to recovery.
Golden age of recovery. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's something to that because we have all these resources now, and it's just a matter of getting the people connected with those resources.
Getting them plugged in.
Absolutely,
Doing things differently.
absolutely. And if you like a orange cake,
Mike serving
I'm
it up.
telling you.
I can't tell you where he's going to be, but
Oh,
he'll be
tonight at the
somewhere.
candlelight at the Mac,
Oh,
we're
there you
serving
go.
up the orange cake,
There you
folks.
go.
Show up. We'll see what we can do.
there you go.
He'll probably get somebody to bring some ice cream along too.
You hear that, Roger?
Yeah, pay attention. You're being voluntold. That's what it sounds like on the air live.
Oh, I think there's hope for us. I really do.
There's hope for everybody.
Oh, yeah, that
We're
was the
proof
part.
of that. We're proof of that.
Yeah, it's available to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yep. No one's excluded. Everyone's included. Come on down and turn your life around.
Absolutely.
That's what we can do here.
Yeah. Folks, you don't have to have the sheriff send you over. You can come on your own and come see us. That part.
So yeah, that's another thing I guess we had to touch on.
Not a requirement?
The programs that I'm offering are obviously connected to the jail or the criminal justice system, but
Right.
there's resources before you reach that point.
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
Wow.
You don't have to do that.
That's even more encouraging. I wish
Exactly.
somebody would have told me that a long time ago.
I was called an overachiever for doing it that way, but now I get it.
I'd prefer the other way. But,
Okay.
Now that you got the opportunity and the knowledge, you've been educated.
there we go. There we go.
So I want to thank Sheriff Mike for coming on today and sharing his experience with us and
It
all
was
the good
great.
things that are going on in this community and how many outreach hands are. If you're suffering from any type of addiction, please reach out to any one of the resources that are available here in our community and come on in and have some orange cake.
Tonight at the Mac.
And maybe some ice cream with Roger.
There
So,
you go. Well, thanks for inviting me.
yes, sir, Sheriff. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It was a lot of fun,
And
sir.
we'll have you
Absolutely.
back. We'll have you back again real soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care out there in this continuous miracle.